So let's go to the Times then. This is about university free speech. What is the point here of this intervention by the government, and why is it, in their view, necessary, Sonia?
Well, I think it's quite extraordinary that the government are proposing new legislation on this because, as a spokesperson from Universities UK points out in the piece, universities already have a statutory duty to promote free speech that, I think in general, universities take quite seriously. There may be, small instances of issues, but there's no it doesn't seem like there's a widespread free speech issue on university campuses. And there are all sorts of issues. It's not clear what's being proposed, but the two examples that are put forward of free speech not being respected by universities include things like, academics signing an open letter criticising another academic. Now, you might not like the academics criticising another academic, but surely the principle of free speech is that if you want to put your name to an open letter, you can. So it seems really, really badly thought through. And I think it's extraordinary that the government's trying to pick a war, as it were, a culture war with young people on this, when actually there are massive issues in universities. If you've been a student over the last year, you've not been able to do in-person learning despite being charged £9,000 worth of fees, for the vast majority of this year. That's a massive issue facing students and universities. It's not this kind of free speech issue. So I do think it shows a really problematic set of priorities from the government when it comes to people in universities.
Yes, and certainly some students felt very tempted to go back to their universities early because they were paying for the accommodation, with not many discounts on offer. Just on that, we did hear the Prime Minister during the debate, didn't we, suggesting that actually in this Parliament, Gito, we would have, or it would begin the review into the pandemic, this full public inquiry. Does that mean in the next year generally? I mean, I know it's, the Queen's speech is a movable feast, but is that good that we're beginning to get the date for it, do you think?
I don't know. I feel that the review of what's gone wrong is an ongoing piece of work that, in the UK, we're very fortunate to have a pretty robust press and media who are reviewing this day by day. And of course, there needs to be a sort of formal inquiry at some point. But I'm not one of those people who expects to learn that much from that inquiry because we tend to identify things as we go along. So I'm not as excited about that. Interestingly, on the free speech thing, I think there is a sense. The Prime Minister said something, just muttered something over the weekend about getting stuck into culture wars. Now, it may seem like a foolish thing to do, but one of the things that they clearly feel is that there are a whole bunch of people out there who are sick of being told what they can think, what they can say, and what they can't say, and who they can talk to, and what they can write, and whether they can revisit things that happened in history decades ago. And it's a very fine line. You have a government that at one level is sort of clamping down on free speech, if you like, freedom to be offensive on the internet. They don't want it, understandably. But on another, they are worried that, let's call it just for shorthand, the woke culture has kind of suffocated a lot of what may be creative and good and necessary and vibrant about a healthy democracy like our own. And that, I think, is what they're getting at in the legislation about universities. They just want universities to be places that are not necessarily safe places for people not to be remotely offended or shocked by people's views, but somewhere where you get really, really robust exchanges that actually move arguments on and make our democracy healthier.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, you do sometimes feel that this might be a generational issue, but we'll see. We're in it at the moment. We'll see how it all comes out in the wash. And the issue that many people